Hello and welcome to this final video on the Xero seminar series. So the last video that we're going to be looking at is going to cover off the Xero phone app. So unfortunately I can't have a phone app screen showing live in this recording, so I've got a few screen shots that I'm going to be showing you, which will hopefully help give you an understanding of how the phone app works. So for those of you that don't have the app on your phone already, the Xero app is available on both Android and on Apple phones as well. So if you go to your add-on store or however you would normally download apps, search for Xero with an X, download the app, and then follow through the processes of logging into the Xero app, and then you will be able to use the app in the ways that I'm going to show you right now. So when you first log into the Xero app, you'll see a screen very much like this one, where it will have the name of your company at the top, and then it will have any bank accounts that you have sitting within your Xero file that you'd normally see on your desktop version. And it will also show you any overpaid or unpaid invoices, overdue invoices, unpaid invoices, sent quotes, or any receipts that need to be repaid. From this screen, you'll see that the business bank account has a wee yellow dot to the left-hand side of it. That means that there's transactions that need to be reconciled. So what we can do is we can click on that to reconcile the transactions. Now, depending on what's showing in your Xero file or what's showing against that particular transaction will depend which one of these three screens that you might be seeing. So if you have a transaction which matches off against an invoice or a bill that you've entered into Xero already, then it will look like the right-hand screen where it will match off the amounts. All you need to do is click OK, and that transaction's reconciled. The next option is if you've set up a rule for coding within Xero, it will look something like this, where it will tell you the rule that it's applying. You can then click OK, and that will reconcile that particular line. The last option is if none of those first two apply and you just need to go and code it, or you need to match it off against multiple invoices, you can click on Create and then follow through the steps to create the particular transaction. You can click on Find to find the invoice or the bill that you need to apply it against, or if it's a transfer, you can click on the Transfer button. If you're not sure, you can click on Add Note to put a note against the transaction as well. Bearing in mind that in the Xero app, you cannot split code the transaction across multiple account codes, and you also can't do an overpayment transaction where, say, you've got the transaction matched off against some invoices or bills, and then you need to code it somewhere else. So anything along those lines, you'll need to use your normal Xero desktop application for that. You also have the ability, if you are using the debtors and creditors within Xero, to be able to look at any outstanding invoices that you have. So in this case, we've got the $9,000 that we have in overdue invoices, and they are sorted by the contacts. You can click on any of those invoices and it will provide you with the information such as when the invoice was due, the invoice number, some details about the invoice, and the total. You can then click on the wee I button here to show screen number 3, which will show you any contact information relating to that person. So you can either email them, phone them, or you can find out where you need to go if you need to go and have a chat to them. If you are out and about and you just want to create an invoice, say you're out at a client's and you've gone and finished the job and you want to go and send them an invoice straight away, you can do that using the app by clicking on the plus button in the top right-hand side and clicking on Create Invoice and following through the steps. You also have the ability to record any receipts or upload any costs or things that you might have paid for, say on your credit card, for example. If you click on Add Receipt, you'll then get a screen like you can see in the second screenshot here, when you can type in what it was for, so what it was that you spent the money on, where you spent it. It will default to saying that you spent it today. You can change that if need be. How did you pay is choosing which bank account that you paid the transaction from, and then you categorize it to an account. And then you can click on Attach Files, which will then take you to the next screen, which will then enable you to take a photo with your phone, or choose a photo that you already have on your phone, which can be of that receipt, and you can then attach that receipt to that transaction and then upload it into Xero. This means that you then don't have to keep a paper copy of the receipt because you've already saved it in your Xero file to save you that time later on. And that concludes the webinar on the Xero app. So the next thing I'm going to go through is just a few of the questions that came up during the presentation. So I'll just pop back into the Xero demo file to go through those. So one of the questions I had was in relation to credit notes. Now you'll recall from the bank reconciling webinar that I did was that I talked about how you could do overpayments and make credit notes from there. Now that only works if you're actually reconciling against physical amounts of money that you've received or sent out. If you've had an example where you've bought something and then you've actually gone and returned it, so you're actually being issued a credit by your supplier, you'll need to go to Accounts, Purchases, click on the down arrow and create credit note from there. Same principle applies for customers that you need to issue a credit note for, and it hasn't been a case of money's changed hands, but you need to put their account into credit. Click on the down arrow and choose credit note. The next query that I had was in relation to altering invoice lines within Xero. So if you're in a particular invoice and you're entering in information, unfortunately, you can only add a new item or choose an item you have in the list. If you wish to edit one of the items that you have in that drop-down list, you have to go to Accounts and Inventory, find the item, and change it from there. I had two other clients also ask me a question in relation to the invoice numbering. The problem they were having was that the invoice numbering was defaulting to the same one every time. Now, the reason that is happening is that if you go and change or overtype this particular invoice number, the next time you come to create a new invoice, it will default back to the same number because it will assume that you want to keep that numbering going forward. So if you are having an issue with the numbering and you want it to start from a particular number and just keep that number going forward, or to cycle it through, I should say, go to Settings, General Settings, and then on the right-hand side, you'll see Invoice Settings. Go to Default Settings, and then just update whatever the next number needs to be on the list. From this screen, you can also set default due dates for your invoices and bills, and also your quote expiry if need be. And the last point that I want to raise is that if you are banking with ANZ and Westpac, and you have credit card bank feeds pulling into Xero, if you still have a wee box underneath it that says person A is the only person that can reconcile this feed, what that means is that your bank feeds are still going through a third-party application, which we call Yodlee. So that application was in place for situations where we had bank accounts that didn't have direct links to Xero because they weren't available from the particular banks, and we're using this third-party application to make that work. Fortunately, ANZ and Westpac have now agreed to and have sorted out the credit card direct feeds to Xero. So if you do have any bank accounts that still have that warning message, I strongly recommend that you get off that particular bank feed and you sort out a direct feed with Westpac and with ANZ, because it will be much more accurate data, because we have had some issues with data doubling up or transactions being missed with that other form of bank feed. So if you are on ANZ or Westpac and you think you might still be on the Yodlee bank feeds, please talk to your contact at Xero and they will help you with the process of fixing that up. Because unfortunately, depending on which bank you're with will depend on the process that you need to follow to sort that out. And that concludes all of the Xero information that I wish to go through. So thank you all very much for your time. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me on jwilson@nexia.co.nz, or feel free to call our office and speak to your normal Nexia contact. Thank you all very much for your time.